targeting Iraqi soldiers collecting their paychecks at a bank in the town of Haditha. And at least 9 people have been killed in a suicide attack at a police station in northwestern Pakistan. Officials say that a lorry carrying explosives rammed into a security checkpoint in the town of Hangu. Around 30 others were wounded. The blast was so powerful that houses and shops in the area collapsed. Meanwhile, a court in Lahore has ruled that a CIA contractor accused of murder will not enjoy diplomatic immunity. Raymond Davis claims that he acted in self-defense when he shot at the 2 Pakistani men. His detention has strained relations between the US and Pakistan. Our correspondent Kamal Haider has been following the case from Islamabad.
Davis was said to have been, on the day of the incident, Davis is said to have been riding in a private car. It was not registered in the name of the embassy, at which point he says somebody tried to rob him. The Pakistanis, of course, saying that the circumstances were very different, that the people never pulled out the gun. That, of course, is the police reports. But there were a lot of witnesses. This happened in a very busy area of Lahore, and therefore the public outcry became a real problem for the government, because on the one hand, it was the relationship with the United States. On the other hand, it was the backlash from the public. So the Raymond Davis case has, of course, received a lot of attention, a media hype. But it's very difficult for the government to maneuver when it comes to this complicated issue.
Now, some people fear that Al-Qaeda could take advantage of the turmoil in Libya. We'll tell you why next. Plus, a miraculous reawakening, how doctors saved this baby by freezing her brain.
As the hot spell extends across the Gulf, we'll still make sure you feel refreshed.
Hello, it's feeling a little on the fresh side across the Arabian Peninsula at the moment. Quite a keen northwesterly wind, the ultramar wind, that's coming back in. It's only 24 Celsius here in Doha. Similar values to come too for Abu Dhabi, but at least it will stay largely dry. A chance of 1 or 2 showers just around the southern end of the Red Sea. And this little discrete line of showers, maybe just pushing up into central parts of Saudi Arabia as we go through Saturday. Still at around 24 Celsius, just around the Gulf. At least, as I said, it is dry. Fine and sunny, dry too across Iran. We push away into Pakistan, again largely dry. Some very wintry weather still very much in place across northern parts of India through Afghanistan. New Delhi should be largely dry here, temperatures at around 23 Celsius. I think you may well see some grey skies though, so a little overcast if we should call it that. Plenty of cloud too, and some showers continuing into Sri Lanka, the far south of India. Temperatures in Colombo at around 34 Celsius. It's brightening up nicely for South Africa, but a few showers a possibility around the eastern and southern Cape. The wettest weather, the seasonal rains continuing through Madagascar, Mozambique, Zambia, right the way across into Angola. Heavy showers now edging their way a little further north. Heavy rain does continue to affect a good part of Brazil, with further flooding for southeastern parts.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
All the news, all the time. AlJazeera.net/English.
Bringing energy to life. Rasgas, the power of the drop.
Hello again, this is Al Jazeera. The top stories this hour. Funerals have been held in Libya for rebel fighters who were among 14 killed when warplanes bombed the Brega oil terminal on Wednesday. Anti-government fighters say they've now cleared the area of government forces. US President Barack Obama has warned Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi that the violence against his people must stop.
Those who perpetrate violence against the Libyan people will be held accountable. And the aspirations of the Libyan people for freedom, democracy, and dignity must be met.
Security forces in Côte d'Ivoire have killed at least 6 women who are marching against the incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo. Meanwhile, the government has cut vital supplies of electricity and water to opposition strongholds in the north. Returning now to Libya and a growing pressure to intervene against Gaddafi on moral and humanitarian grounds. But it seems that the international community can't make up its mind about what exactly to do. Many fear that military intervention could expose Libya to an infiltration by Al-Qaeda. Al Jazeera's Lawrence Lee explains.
Muammar Gaddafi says a lot of things, but he says one thing consistently. In every speech he's given since this crisis began, he's claimed the insurgency is being led by Al-Qaeda, and they're all over the country.
These dormant cells of Al-Qaeda, very few groups in Darna, others in Tobruk, others in Benghazi, a cell in Al-Zawiya possibly, Misrata, certain operatives infiltrated from outside and settled in these areas.
Repeatedly, insurgents have denied this. Up until now, it also appears the outside world doesn't believe Gaddafi. After all, why would a country like Britain say it's prepared to consider arming the insurgency if they thought that it might contain Al-Qaeda elements?
I do think it's the job of leaders in the Western world in particular to prepare for all eventualities and all the things that might happen, particularly if Colonel Gaddafi unleashes more things on his own people.
Why would there still be a discussion in Washington about airstrikes or no-fly zones against Gaddafi if it helped Al-Qaeda come to power?
They do need the tools to prevent the slaughter of innocents on Libyan streets. And I believe that the global community cannot be on the sidelines while airplanes are allowed to bomb and strafe.
Here's the difficulty for the West, though. Even if Gaddafi's wrong, the West firmly believes Al-Qaeda does have a presence in several countries neighbouring Libya, or at least within striking distance. If the West helped to destabilise Libya, then it might undermine a growing sense of a secular Arab revolution, creating space for Al-Qaeda to exploit.
One of our biggest concerns is Libya descending into chaos and becoming a giant Somalia. It's right now not something that we see in the offing, but many of the Al-Qaeda activists in Afghanistan and later in Iraq came from Libya and came from eastern Libya, which is now the so-called free area of Libya. So, I mean, there is a lot of moving parts to this.
The worst mistake the West made in Iraq was trying to destabilize a regime and instead destabilizing a country. Perhaps the uncertainty about military intervention now suggests they've learned a lesson that undermining Al-Qaeda's aims may be best served by not getting involved. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.
Lawyers for Julian Assange have officially appealed against the judge's ruling that the WikiLeaks founder be extradited to Sweden to face allegations of sexual assault. Documents were lodged at the High Court in London, but the appeal process could take months. Assange will remain on bail, living in the home of a WikiLeaks supporter. The Australian